next video, I was thinking about doing some whispered facts about Vikings, and at the same time I will try to tap on this wooden brush. Or maybe I should have cleaned it before I started using it, but it's mainly clean. I'm just taking out a few. So we'll try to do it simultaneously, but we'll see how it goes because I still need to use my hands for the facts about Vikings. So the first fact is that Vikings didn't wear horned helmets. So I guess that's just in the movies they added that. It says that painters seem to have fabricated the trend during the 19th century, perhaps inspired by descriptions of northern Europeans by ancient Greek and Roman chroniclers. Fact number 2 is Vikings were known for their excellent hygiene. Fact number 3 is that Vikings used a unique liquid to start fires. It says that they would collect a fungus called touch wood from tree bark and boil it for several days in urine before pounding it into something akin to felt. And then the sodium nitrate found in urine would allow the material to smolder rather than burn, so Vikings could take fire with them on the go. Oh, wow. This next fact I actually didn't know. Vikings buried their dead in boats because I watched a documentary about Nordic history, and then they're like dug up some huge boat with a lot of dead people inside, so I guess I didn't know that. Fact number 5 is that Vikings were active in the slave trade. Many Vikings got rich of human trafficking. They would capture and enslave women and young men while pillaging Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, and Slavic settlements. And number 6 is Viking women enjoyed some basic rights. Viking girls got hitched as young as 12 and had to mind the household, while their husbands sailed off on adventures. Still, weren't thralls. Viking women could inherit property, request a divorce, and reclaim their dowries if their marriages ended. And fact number 7 is that Viking men spent most of their time farming. This may come as a disappointment, but most Viking men brandished scythes, not swords. True, some were pirates who only stepped off their boats to burn villages, but the vast majority peacefully sowed barley, rye, and oats, at least for part of the year. Fact number 8 is that Vikings skied for fun. Scandinavians developed primitive skis at least 6,000 years ago, though ancient Russians may have invented them even earlier. By the Viking Age, Norsemen regarded skiing as an efficient way to get around and a popular form of recreation. They even worshipped the god of skiing, Ullr. Viking gentlemen preferred being blonde to conform to their culture's beauty ideals. Brunette Vikings, usually men, would use a strong soap with high lye content to bleach their hair. In some regions, beards were lightened as well. It's likely these treatments also helped Vikings with a problem far more quickly and rampant than mousy manes, head lice. Okay. Okay, the name Viking means a pirate raid in the Old Norse language. And interestingly, around 500 years before Christopher Columbus discovered the American continent, Vikings had visited its shores, landing in what is now Canada in around AD 1000. Among the many gods Vikings believed in were Thor, the god of thunder, and Loki, a cheeky mischief maker who would shapeshift to become all different kinds of animals. That's also where the inspiration for the Thor movies and the Loki, like the characters of the Avengers. The Vikings were excellent boat builders and sailors. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce this, but Fenrir Greyback, the werewolf in the Harry Potter books, was named after a ferocious giant wolf from ancient Viking mythology. When important Scandinavian winters in frozen fjords didn't stop the Vikings from tucking in their favorite food, fish. During warmer months, they would hang up and dry fish to eat later. Also on another website it says that a Viking landed on American shores long before Columbus. Although we commonly credit Christopher Columbus with being the European who discovered the land that would become known as the New World, Viking explorer Leif Erikson beat him to it by a whopping 500 years. Yeah, I've heard about this, the Leif Erikson Viking. Leif's father was the first Viking to set foot in Greenland. They had their own gods, although Viking mythology came long after Roman and Greek mythology. The Norse gods are far less familiar to us than the likes of Zeus, Aphrodite, and Juno, but their legacy on the modern-day world can be found in all kinds of places, including superhero films. Yeah. And the days of the week are named after some of them. The only day of the week not named after a Norse god in the English language is Saturday, which is named after the Roman god Saturn. They ate twice a day. Their first meal, served approximately an hour after rising, was effectively breakfast but known as dagmal to the Vikings. Second meal, natmal, was served in the evening at the end of the working day. Honey was the only sweetener known to the Vikings. They used it to make, among other things, a strong alcoholic drink called mead. And as we already know, they were proficient shipbuilders. The Vikings wrote down stories known as sagas. Based on oral traditions, these tales, which were mostly written in Iceland, were usually realistic and based on true events and figures. They were, however, sometimes romanticized and fantastical, and the accuracy of the stories is often disputed. Yeah, and also the Vikings kept slaves. This is another website known as thralls. So the names of the slaves were thralls. They were very into physical activity, sports that involved weapon training, and training for combat were particularly popular, as was swimming. The last great Viking king was killed at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Harald Hardrada had come Icelandic sagas are an important source of Viking facts. The Icelandic sagas, central to our understanding of Viking history, offer detailed narratives about the lives, adventures, and conflicts of the Norse people. However, their historical accuracy is debated, as these sagas were penned centuries after the events they described, often blending facts with folklore. This blend enriches the sagas but complicates their use as pure historical records. Despite this, they remain invaluable for providing insights into Viking society, culture, and the values they held dear, acting as a bridge to the distant Viking age. We know a lot through the accounts of enemies. During the Viking Age, the Norse language was very much a spoken one. Viking runes were used, but this wasn't an everyday written language. As such, the Vikings wrote down almost nothing about their own adventures. What does this mean? Well, aside from the sagas, much of our knowledge from the time is made up of accounts written down by people in lands that were conquered. This presents its own accuracy issues, of course. One great example is the accounts of the attack on Lindisfarne written in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. The woeful inroads of heathen men destroyed God's church in Lindisfarne Island by fierce robbery and slaughter. Writing several years later, the chronicler Simon of Durham wrote, "They miserably ravaged and pillaged everything. They trod the holy things under their palleted feet. They dug down the altars and plundered all the treasures of the church." Viking rune stones still exist today. Vikings were skilled storytellers. Although stories were mostly passed down orally, they used rune stones as a medium to tell tales of their deeds, honor the deceased, or mark territory. These stones found throughout Scandinavia are adorned with runes and sometimes intricate carvings that offer a glimpse of the Viking worldview. Many of the best are found in Uppsala, Sweden. Here it also says what it says in another website. Viking Age people were clean, not dirty. The thought of men abroad, about for weeks on end, might conjure up images of filth, but archaeological finds suggest otherwise. Tweezers, razor, and combs are among the items that have been found in archaeological digs. The word Viking is a verb. The term Viking has its roots in the Old Norse language, where it initially functioned as a verb rather than a noun. Historically, Viking referred specifically to the act of raiding and embarking on expeditions, indicating a dynamic process of exploration, plunder, and adventure. This linguistic nuance points to the Vikings' own perception of their activities, emphasizing the action and the enterprise of raiding foreign lands over the identity of the raiders themselves. language used during the Viking Age heavily influenced the English we use today. One great example is the word berserk. Warriors that entered battle in trance-like state were known as berserkers. Some say they wore the skins of bears or wolves. It's worth thinking about next time you use the word. There was no Viking community. Contrary to the notion of a cohesive Viking community, the Vikings were divided in numerous independent tribes across Scandinavia, each led by its own chieftain. These tribes valued their autonomy, often resulting in conflicts over cooperation. While alliances did form, they were usually temporary, driven by necessity rather than a sense of unity. Despite their fragmented society, Vikings were not completely isolated from each other. Trade was crucial, enabling tribes to access goods and resources they lacked, fostering connections through shared language, religious beliefs, and customs. This facilitated a level of interaction and exchange without an unified identity. The idea of a single Viking community most likely comes from the perspective of people living elsewhere. Games were popular in the Viking Age. Norse people engaged in various games, including strategic board games, physical sports, and competitions of strength and skill to entertain and train. They traveled as far east as Turkey. Vikings were known as great travelers. In fact, Norsemen made up a lot of the Byzantine Empire's Varangian I'm sorry, I totally butchered that name. In modern-day Turkey, it is believed that Harald Hardrada rose through the ranks to become the commander of the guard in Constantinople. He would eventually return to become the king of Norway and is often referred to as the last great Viking. Most Viking houses were made of wood, stone, or turf, with thatched roofs. They all had a hole in the roof to let out smoke from the fire. There was no employment as such during the Viking times. People were mostly farmers, craftsmen, and traders. Women milked cows to make cheese and spun, wove, and sewed clothes. Viking children did not go to school. Everything was learned through stories. Long Viking stories are called sagas. Oh, these were Viking facts for kids, so that's maybe not right. The age of the Vikings lasted for just under 300 years. Okay, let's search for this Viking. Eric. What was his name? Like Eric something? No, Leif. No, I don't remember now. Leif Erikson, I think. Or is it? Oh, apparently he was known as Leif the Lucky. Leif Erikson, also known as Leif the Lucky, was a Norse explorer who is thought to have been the first European to set foot on continental America, approximately half a millennium before Christopher Columbus. According to the sagas of Icelanders, he established a Norse settlement at Vinland, which is usually interpreted as being coastal North America. Leif's place of birth is unknown, although it is assumed to have been in Iceland. His father, Eric the Red, founded the first Norse settlement in Greenland, where Leif was later raised. Following his voyage to Vinland and the subsequent death of his father, Leif became chief of the Greenland settlement. Okay, apparently Vinland is a part of Newfoundland describes Newfoundland and the Gulf of St. Lawrence as far as northeastern New Brunswick. The Vikings had a profound impact on the early medieval history of Scandinavia, the British Isles, France, Estonia, and Kievan Rus. Kievan Rus was it's in today's Russia and also Ukraine. And I've read something about this before. I'm trying to remember what I read. International raiders. Starting in 1865, the Vikings began a massive invasion of England, known as the Great Heathen Army. The pagan soldiers attacked and took over 3 of Ireland's 4 Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. Though referred to in military terms at the time, the raiders also included traders, women, and children. The remaining unconquered kingdom, Wessex, escaped Viking rule, but engaged in years of fighting. Eventually, the Danelaw, the lands taken over by Danish Vikings, extended across the entire northeastern portion of England. England wasn't the only place where Vikings made themselves known. They sailed as far as North America, as far west as Canada, and into the Middle East, Russia, France, and Spain. Along the way, Vikings settled intermixed with the people they conquered and influenced everything from language to warfare. By about 1100, Viking dominance diminished, political power consolidated as scattered chieftains